Happy Friday, everyone. Well, aging. Today I saw that Vogue Philippines had 106-year-old woman on their cover, and she looked beautiful. Well, the topic is healthy aging correlation to sexual wellness. We have one of the pioneers today. I am so super excited to have Gloria with me. She is a certified sexologist. She was one of the few ones who started talking about this topic. So I'm going to introduce her and let her take over from me. Thank you so much, Gloria, for being with me.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So let's just talk about this aging and sexual wellness and all those gory details here.
Right. Well, aging, of course, with the growing boomer population and people leading longer lives, and with the help of scientific studies and other kinds of studies, we understand that aging is just a natural part of human life, which can be as affirming and comfortable as your youth, and in some ways, even more relaxing and calmer because you understand so much more. I would say that the keys are self-care and self-acceptance that allow us to flourish as older people. I'm an older person, and so I do a lot of self-care, some of which overlaps with the things that you recommend very strongly on your website, such as yoga, breathing, and so forth. So that's the main thing. I help many women deal with the changes that will come in their bodies and not to fear those changes, but to try to work with them through self-acceptance.
Sure. So self-acceptance is important. I do want to touch upon the subject of sexual wellness as we age. How important is that to aging? Does that help us with the aging process? Talk to us from a scientific point of view.
Yes, there have been numerous studies, first of all, that have linked sexual activity, regular sexual activity to longevity. We don't have absolute proof, but it's out there now as a pretty good correlation between remaining sexually active and having a better health profile and wellness profile overall. It's absolutely key beyond that to mitigating depression, which is a very common problem in older people, particularly if they've been widowed or, so maintaining sexual wellness is really key at any age to mental health and overall physical wellness, and may even cut back your risks considerably of developing a wide range of physical diseases, such as regular orgasms have been shown medically to reduce your risk of strokes, heart attacks, reproductive cancers, including breast cancer and prostate cancer. So there's a wide host of medical research which supports the idea that your sexual wellness is part of your body wellness. We are all one united system within. There is no separation in Western culture, maybe elsewhere. We tend to draw a little line around that place below our belly button as if it has its own life, but it doesn't. Its life really is in constant motion and connected to the brain, the gut, our skin. So all of our organs are involved in sexual wellness.
You're absolutely correct. So now the drive goes down, right? As we age, and it doesn't matter it's a woman or a man, generally speaking. So what are the, since you're a sexologist, we are talking about sexual wellness as it relates to aging. So what can they do? Whether it's a man or a woman, your drive is going down, you're too tired physically, you're not so agile as you used to be. People who are getting there, what can they do?
Well, I would say, and this applies, by the way, to perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause in women. And while men don't undergo menopause, there is a change which we might call male menopause, because they're watching the curve of their performance go down. And, gravity takes over in our bodies too. So even our genitalia changes with age. Different things happen to male-bodied people and different things happen to women's bodies, but overall, female-bodied women. But overall, again, we come back to two basic concepts that help us to stay vibrant. The first one, of course, self-acceptance. And the other one is stress management, because you cannot be alive in this world and not feel stress. And some of us experience it very deeply. So for example, I glided through menopause. I was expecting tremendous disruption because I saw my mother go through tremendous disruption. But I think it was easier for me because I am a person who does breathing exercises and sometimes yoga positions to relax. I put a lot of effort, because I'm a type A personality with a type A life, into managing my stress and knowing when to self-care, knowing when to take some me time, not being afraid of feeling sleepy or tired, but actually listening to my body, not fighting it, taking a nap if I need to take a nap. I'm 67 now. I'll be 68 in a few months. I'm in pretty good shape for somebody my age. And menopause brought, perimenopause brought mood shifts. Menopause brought some hot flashes. But I think the best results that I have, or the good results that I had, came from knowing what to expect and dealing with it, and not feeling, which I think really impacts a lot of women, not feeling bad about the fact that I was now no longer fertile and no longer able to reproduce. So throughout menopause, I reminded myself, I had a husband, we didn't have to use birth control anymore. That was really lovely. There were positive things. I didn't have to deal with the dire inconvenience of a monthly period. I saw benefit in not being quite as driven to have sex, and to find other things, let's say sex adjacent or intercourse adjacent, that were just as fun for me, even though my body is no longer the same. I'm not lubricating the way that I did before I had menopause. Well, there are hacks. I use a lot more lubes, and I'm not as focused on penetration. It's really about the quality of the intimacy, and it opens new doors for people. So I feel that if you're in a good space psychologically, you probably are going to have fewer problems with menopausal side effects. Now, there are some women, of course, who are wired to have disruptions in their lives. There may be migraines. There may be physical changes to your genitalia that make penetration painful. But I find that myself and many of my clients are not depending on medical treatment. Some of us do need hormone replacement, but not everyone. I don't like the fact that doctors, have kind of a program, that when you turn a certain age, you have to start taking all of these pills, whether or not your screens are showing that you really need those pills yet. And that's kind of how I feel about certain things like hormone replacement. You can stay vital by choosing to have orgasms, for which you do not usually need pills. You can maintain that. I still have orgasms, even though penetration would be painful to me. So keeping that in mind and adjusting our behaviors according to our age is just a natural process of life. Look, when women give birth for the several months following birth and even during pregnancy, their bodies change. They don't panic over the body changes. They go with the flow. They understand they had a big hormonal episode that took them in one direction, and they will slowly shift back to their normal hormonal state. With menopause, what you will find is that you do have a shift. You won't regain what you had when you were 20, but you may find something new and really delightful that brings you just as much pleasure, maybe of a different kind.
I think, no, that's beautifully said. I think you're absolutely right. Menopause can be very liberating for a lot of women, right? No more, no more periods, right? And don't have to worry about getting pregnant. I mean, like you already have your share of getting the babies out now. No more worries about that. So also a time for self, like self introspection. Who you are, right?
Right. And, a lot of people, they take their dream, they start crossing things off their bucket lists. They take their dream vacation. They take, you know what I mean? Or they decide they're going to put their attention on grandchildren. And everybody finds lots of sources of happiness. And for me, I think it's also a time to focus on what would really make you happy. And whether you know it or not, what would make you really happy is still feeling the delight and the ecstasy of sensual pleasure and sexual pleasure. So I think one thing I teach everyone, including young women, is that at a certain point in your life, you have to choose to maintain your body. And part of maintaining your body and maintaining your overall physical health, and particularly your sexual wellness, is by still continuing to experience erotic joy as long as you possibly can. And if your hands aren't working, try some toys,
No, I think, and that's what we are trying to do, is that, we're trying to say the body is one being, as you said earlier, just because our, like the parts out there below the navel are different and above the legs, but if you don't service or take care of all your organs, whatever organs God has given each one of us, something is going to shut down, and it's going to start shutting down, right?
Right. And that's why I think, I'm more on the sciencey side. So I'm more like DNA, what DNA gave us, But I also believe that if you do believe in a God, whatever God you believe in, and you believe they made the human body, well, you can see that plan in how we're organized, which is that when you have good sex, enjoyable sex, you become more vibrant. Your brain lights up. You are helping your cardiovascular system to function. You're putting sex positive chemistry, which means oxytocin and dopamine, you're flushing it through your entire bloodstream. These are critical natural drugs which we should be encouraging people to promote the wonder of the natural drugs that your brain produces when you're erotically stimulated. Because clearly, you know, for example, you know, I once answered the question, a big question, why do men have morning wood, right? And the reason they do is because the penis is actually an extension of of a male circulatory system. And therefore, your brain knows what your body needs, and that is to do circulatory checks on your genitalia to make sure that they're operating, and really to sort of, I think of it as it goes on during our sleep, and it refreshes and relaxes our bodies much in the same way that sleep does. It's part of our sleep. And subconsciously or unconsciously, it's part of our day every day, because that's how we are wired. So whether you attribute that to God installing all the hardware, or medical science having looked at all of these things and noticing finally, or admitting finally, that we wouldn't even be who we are without wellness in our sexuality.
Well, I think it's, you know, this message has to go across the world. You know, we don't talk about this open, right? We don't talk about this openly at all. It doesn't matter Western society, Eastern society, or any society for that matter. All over the world, we're all one now. Thanks. Yeah.
Sexual health crosses every demographic boundary you can imagine. We are all built exactly the same under the skin, you know. I'm sorry. Of course, we all vary, but what I mean is that the fundamentals of human health, like we all know that heart health is critically important, and brain health is extremely important, and kidney health and liver health, and sexual health is right up there. And it doesn't, you know, just because you're old doesn't mean you should just forget about or put that part of your life away. On the contrary, if you want to maintain your sexual function, you have to use what God gave you in the first place. If you don't, you will lose sexual function to the detriment of your mind and body.
Well, thank you so much for such an amazing session today, Gloria. It's so insightful. And that's what we are trying to do on Nourish Talk, is promote the holistic health especially we focus on mid-age women, perimenopausal, menopausal, and beyond. But sexual wellness is so important in addition to taking care of our physical and emotional wellness, which we don't talk about. And that's what we are trying to bring this topic out and start offering the program.
Even as a sex therapist, sometimes I have to profile my clients' daily habits. Are they hydrated? Are they eating well? Are they getting enough sleep? Do they have time during the day where they're moving, you know, their deliberate movement, you know, or getting some form of exercise? What is their favorite way of relaxing? Because I go through a long list of these most basic human health factors, because they impact your sexuality and your sexuality impacts them. So
absolutely. Thank you so much, Gloria, for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. It was a joy meeting you.
Yes, absolute joy. And we are launching programs. We're doing a lot of fun things teaching women in a simple way. That's what we're going to start doing. So stay tuned with us. Thank you and have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.